Recently, there have been reports of some sort of Nintendo Switch redesign that have been popping up a lot more lately. We've had rumors of a Switch Mini for a little while now, and seeing how the Switch is over 2 years old at this point, it really isn't too unrealistic to expect some sort of redesigned version of the Switch in the near future, potentially even this year. If we were to compare the Nintendo Switch to the 3DS or the original DS, they both had some sort of redesign within 2 years after its initial launch, with the 3DS XL and the DS Lite. Now generally, Nintendo's console redesigns tend to fix an issue the older console has, or in the case with something like the 2DS, they redesigned the console to target a certain subset of people, as the 2DS was targeted more towards younger children. So when it comes with the Nintendo Switch redesign, it has to either be an improvement upon the original Switch, or something like the 2DS that's designed to be more affordable for a different audience. The main source that I see referencing the Switch redesign was also the first one to reference it that I could find, and that's the Wall Street Journal, which is actually a decently credible source. They reported there will be 2 new Switch redesigns coming out in the near future. The first of the redesigned Switch is stated to have enhanced features targeted more towards an avid gamer, however it will not be as powerful as the PlayStation 4 Pro model or the Xbox One S. The second model seems to be the more appealing of the two in my opinion, as the second Switch model is apparently supposed to be a cheaper version of the current Switch with some features to cut to reduce costs. One of the cut features is the HD rumble apparently, which is rather unfortunate since that seemed to be a pretty key selling point to the original Switch, with some of the launch titles focusing on this feature. They're rumored to reveal both of these new Switch consoles around the time of E3 as well, for a potential holiday season release. And that's pretty much all we know about these new Switch models. I have a lot of hopes for these Switch redesigns, and I want to talk more about what I want to see in each version. Let's start off with the enhanced version for avid gamers. So like I said earlier, since this version is apparently targeted more towards an avid gamer, I'm thinking this version of the Switch will primarily be a home console, primarily focused on playing on your television, as opposed to the hybrid that the original Switch is. I expect the price range of this version of the Switch to be around the same price of the original Switch, maybe even a little bit more, costing between $300 and $350, and then once this new version releases, we could possibly see a price drop in the original Switch to balance it out, since the original Switch is over 2 years old at this point, and will have hardware that's not up to par compared to this newer model. And again, since this is targeted more towards avid gamers, I expect Nintendo to make this bundle appeal more towards a more hardcore gamer, so I would love to see it come bundled with a more traditional gaming controller, like the Switch Pro controller, which is a lot more like the PS4 controller or the Xbox One controller versus Joy-Cons. Now the Joy-Cons are fine, don't get me wrong, but some games just work better with a regular controller, and that is something I think will also keep third-party developers more interested in the Switch. We're also getting pretty close to a point where a new PlayStation model or a new Xbox model could be coming out in the near future, as rumors about those two consoles are revving up a lot more lately. This new Switch design for avid gamers could help persuade certain gamers who primarily use an Xbox One or a PS4 to switch over to a Nintendo console, as a lot of third-party game developers are still coming out with games for the Switch, and this new redesign could persuade them to continue to do so. You can still play your great games you have on PS4 or Xbox One, as a lot of the bigger games are on both of those consoles, while still being able to play Nintendo-focused games that are Nintendo exclusive, such as Smash Ultimate, Breath of the Wild, or the upcoming Pokemon games. I really hope that this new Switch version pushes Nintendo in a direction where they can cater more towards the Xbox One and PlayStation fans as well. I would love to see this version be compatible with Joy-Cons, which I think it should be, even if they aren't attached to the console, as if they're not attached to the console, they should be able to connect with Bluetooth, since I think it's pretty unlikely to have the Joy-Cons connect to the actual console. And this might be a little contradictory to what I'm saying, but I still think having the option to play in some sort of handheld mode would be nice, but it wouldn't surprise me if this version of the Switch is only focused on being able to play it on the TV, with the cheaper model only being in handheld. I also feel like the upcoming Pokemon games are a huge reason why Nintendo wants to release new Switch redesigns, as it's pretty safe to assume at this point that Pokemon Sword and Shield will be one of the best-selling games on the Switch when we get to the end of the Switch's life cycle, and if not, it'll probably be the best-selling game, period. These new console redesigns can persuade people to get a Switch, and in turn, Pokemon. I believe that this cheaper alternative is the version that people will get if they're solely looking for Pokemon on the Switch, and even though I already have the current version of the Nintendo Switch, I would honestly consider getting this cheaper version if it turns out how I think it might. So when it comes to the cheaper version of the Switch, I feel like this will be the Switch Mini we have all heard so many rumors about within the past few months. A mini Switch would be perfect for games like Pokemon Sword and Shield, while still being able to be used for current Switch games like Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey. I would assume that if the other Switch redesign that's targeted more towards avid gamers is going to be mostly a home console, then this cheaper version will mostly be focused on being a handheld console. One of the biggest issues I have with the current version of the Switch is that it's just a little bit too big to fit in my pocket, and although it is technically a hybrid console, being able to be a portable console, it really isn't as portable as the 3DS or even the original Game Boy was. The Switch Mini could be Nintendo's spiritual successor to the 3DS as well, as their new handheld-focused console, while still giving consumers the option to purchase the original hybrid Switch or the other redesign as well. I would also like to see actual Joy-Cons on the Switch Mini as well. I have seen rumors that the Switch Mini will be sort of like a PS Vita, where it'll be one stationary unit without any removable Joy-Cons. Now, I still wouldn't really mind that too much, but the Joy-Cons would be nice to be able to play multiplayer games on the go, as they can easily detach from the console and give you two controllers. Maybe we will see smaller Joy-Cons for this cheaper Switch version to fit on the console better, or maybe the regular Joy-Cons that are on the current Switch will fit on this one as well. Seeing as the console is rumored to not have any form of rumble, I would assume that would mean that the console is not compatible with the current Joy-Cons and does not have detachable Joy-Cons, and would be more like how the PS Vita is in terms of appearance. I still see this version as the more appealing version of the two upcoming versions, however, as it would be cheaper than the current Switch. I'd guess around $200, maybe even $150 honestly, and allow a lot of younger kids to have the Nintendo Switch console in their hands. The 3DS is pretty much dead at this point, so I think 2019 is a fantastic time for Nintendo to release a handheld-focused Switch console. This version could also connect to a TV potentially, as all it would really need is an HDMI output. Now, it wouldn't really surprise me too much if they cut this feature as well to lower the cost even more, especially if the other redesign of the Switch is more focused to be primarily played on the TV. It would make sense to make this version primarily focused on handheld only. So what do you guys think? Do you plan on getting any of these potential Switch redesigns in the future, or do you prefer the original hybrid Switch version? Also, let me know in the comment section down below what your predictions or wishlists are for these two upcoming potential Switch redesigns are. I have no doubt that if these Switch redesign rumors are true, then Nintendo will deliver and release two awesome versions of Nintendo Switch, which is already a very awesome console. I do love my current hybrid Switch, but I'm still looking forward to this cheaper alternative specifically, as the potential for a Switch Mini focused mostly on handheld gaming seems a lot more appealing to me, especially for games like Pokemon or Animal Crossing, which I think are best played on the go. Either way, the future for the Nintendo Switch seems very bright, and this is a fantastic time to be a Nintendo fan, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.